Hello, bienvenidos, welcome back to my channel. As you guys can see from the title, today we are doing our first ranking eyeshadow palettes of the year. Alright guys, as you guys know, I started this series last year where I rank any eyeshadow palettes that I use, obviously more than once. I gotta use it a few times and to really get use out of the palette itself in order for me to qualify it into this ranking series. If I have done a review of any palette, if it is a new palette and I have done its own personalized video, it will not be in this ranking video, but if I didn't, this is where you'll hear my thoughts on it. So I do have 8 palettes. 8 palettes that I've been using in the last 2 months. January, I lost most of the month, but I picked it up in February. And you're going to see a theme that I picked in February. I had a lot of fun with my pinks and purples. And I do have 1 new palette in here. No, I would say 3, because they're not necessarily new to the market, but they were new to me. So I would say like 3 new palettes that I have here. So here we go, you guys. If you want to see my ranking, stay tuned. But first, if you're new to my channel, welcome. My name's Alejandra. I go by Alex. I'm an eyeshadow enthusiast with a Dash Project Pan. If that is something you want to continue to see on your feed, subscribe and join us. And now let's get on with the ranking. Alright, if this is your first time on this series, I just want to give you guys a little quick background on how I rank these palettes. I'm not ranking these palettes on solely one category or one criteria. It's a lot of criterias, like a lot of things that go through my mind of how I'm ranking it. It's a personal preference thing. So for me, this is my personal ranking. So it's not necessarily about the formula at all times. Sometimes it is because of the formula. Sometimes it is because of the color story. Sometimes it is just how much I love the palette. So my ranking doesn't necessarily just have a specific blanket rule of how I do this. It's more of a personal thing that I have fun with. I am using palettes that are already in my collection that are older and newer palettes. So I love to see where the older palettes land versus the new ones, because as you guys know, formulas do change. We have similar color stories, we have different brands, so that all comes into play whenever I rank my eyeshadow palettes. And I do have some older palettes in here, which is exciting, and then I have some newer palettes to me that are also exciting. I love to mix my new and old because you don't realize how many color stories you have that are similar, or formulas that you prefer that you loved back in the day that are a lot better with other ones now. All right, you guys, so we're gonna start with number 8. For me, number 8 went to the Marvelous Mauve's Dose of Color palette. Now, this was brand new when I rolled it into a project pan, and I used it 10 times. So that's more than plenty for me to get a grasp of it. These are 5 shadows and they're all mattes. The reason why this one is ranking at number 8, not because of the quality. I don't mind the powder kick up, and I do not mind that it is a formula that's very messy. I just ranked it the lowest because I'm somebody who doesn't really prefer an all matte eyeshadow palette. I don't really do all matte eyes. It's very far and few between when I do that. I always love to add a shimmer, a glitter, a glisten, something to my eyes. So for me, that's why this one ranks low. But it is a beautiful companion palette. It is beautiful, and I loved how it came out. This one was a beautiful inner corner highlight, a matte with a nice pinky undertone to it. So it gave it a different look for all of my eyeshadows. So it is a beautiful palette, don't get me wrong. It's just for me and my likes, this one ranked the least with amongst its little members on here. Number 7 goes to the Beauty Bay Book of Magic. Now this one really blew me away. I loved it. I can see what the hype is about with this eyeshadow right over here. The color story is beautiful, but as you guys know, I don't reach for blues often. So every time I open it up, I just see a bunch of blue because of the background. So it always deters me from reaching for it. But I will say, like, I love these neutrals. I love these greens right here. And the purples are really, really nice. Like, there's nothing wrong with this eyeshadow palette. It's just I have a hard time sometimes when I pull it out to look past all the blues. All these blues right here because of the background of it. But it is a beautiful palette, and I would have ranked it, maybe if it had a different like packaging or something, it wouldn't pull me away from it as much. But I love the fact that I have it in my collection and it is unique to my collection because I do not own many blue eyeshadow palettes, and the formula was really good. Like every look that I came out with, you guys always complimented me, and it was always this palette that I was reaching for. So even though it's not my favorite out of the rest, it's still such a good palette. So I'm not decluttering it either. Okay, number 6 goes to the Jaclyn Hill Dark Magic palette. This was a little bit used before I brought it into a project pan, and you guys can see it right here. Wow, you guys, I'm not upset about this one. I know that some of you guys had like a bad batch of this. I don't know. I can see how these mattes can be a little bit drying, but I've been able to work with them and they've been perfectly fine. These shimmers on the top, the 3 shimmers, are beautiful. I fell in love with this shade right here, fell in love with the one I was panning. The green one was beautiful. I actually really enjoyed this color story. Like if I'm gonna go with a cool tone color story, like this would be my jam. This shade, awesome. Love this shade all over the lid and popping this or this one on it. I just love this. It is a beautiful color story. It's a shame with the history of this, but it was a nice palette. I enjoyed every second. I did not complain. I did not, whine about it or felt like, oh, I'm going to declutter this after I'm done using it. No, I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed this one. So this one actually ranks a little bit higher than this one just because it doesn't have so many blues, and I really liked it a lot. Number 5, now this one was tough because I really like this one, but number 5 has to go to the New Romantic palette by Beauty Bay. This is one that is no longer available to Beauty Bay, but it just matches my shirt. This is beautiful. It was a beautiful helper for the rest of my palettes that I'm going to share with you guys because they were a little bit more subdued in their shimmers at times, and this just amped it up. This is like a modern renaissance on steroids, basically. This is such a beautiful, beautiful color story. I loved it. I loved it. This green down here is just like, I love putting this down as a base and then putting some sort of gold on top of it, or a pink, a light pink. It was so, so pretty. It helped me out a ton this month. This one has an inner corner. The purple one was beautiful. I just enjoyed this one a lot. And the mattes, they helped me warm up some of these cooler tones that I was using. So I really like this one. Really, really like this one. Like out of all my Beauty Bay, this would probably be one of my top 2 because this is just so, so good. I really liked it. All right, up next is a newer one to my collection. This was a gift last year for Mother's Day, and I waited until this time of year to use it. And that is number 4. It goes to the Love palette. This was a lot of hit and miss with people. I know that many people didn't like it, did like it, they weren't caring for it. This is a palette that I've realized that looking at it as a whole will confuse you and not want to use it. But if you break it down, it's a lot more easier and a lot more fun to use. So what I would do is I would pick out 3 or 4 shadows I just wanted to play around with that day and only concentrate on them. And I loved every look I did. If you're looking at it as a complete whole, it will be a little bit like, I don't really want to use it. I don't know what to do with it. But if you center down on the colors you want for that day, it'll be a lot easier. And the formula is just great. Everyone loved these 2 shades right here. I can see why. These were really, really beautiful. And those were perfect for those days where I was sick and tired of using a gray all over the lid, and I would just top these 2 on top to mix it, and it would look really, really nice. I enjoyed this one. This is number 4 because it's a lot more fun. The formula is a lot better than the rest of them that I shared with you guys, and it's just, I'm surprised that I like it. Because I just kept hearing many people were like, no. But I really did like it just because it really made me think and create fun stuff that normally my pinks and purples would be very monochromatic, and that's not a monochromatic palette at all. All right, let's go for the top 3. Number 3 goes to a new palette that I got in January, and that is the Sydney Grace Be Mine palette. This one is not your traditional Valentine's Day palette, which was the main reason why it attracted me. I love the fact that this is not a all pink and purple type of palette. It gave you those pinks and purples, but it was more subdued and it helped you to get more neutral colors out of it. This one is beautiful, beautiful. I got the light version, and I know that many said that it was too dark for you if you were porcelain or fair skin, and I can see that. But for me, it was perfect. Perfect. I loved it. I will say that I felt like this shade right here, and I can't remember which other one, it may have been one of these down here, where it felt a little bit drier than your typical matte shadows from Sydney Grace. It was a little bit like it came off patchy on my skin. It may have been, I can't remember which purple one. I'll have to look at the swatches and then put it up on the screen. But I remember it was this one and one of these purple shades down here. I had to build it up, but it was still workable. It wasn't as patchy and as dry as like a Juvia's Place matte, but it was drier than your normal Sydney Grace shadows. So that's the only thing. It was only like 2 of them. The rest are amazing. The shimmers are awesome. I will attest to that because I used another Sydney Grace palette this month, and the quality of the shimmers are just as good as those. So I know that one of you guys had mentioned to me that the shimmers weren't as impactful. Somebody had mentioned. They are impactful. They are. Especially if you use your finger, they are. Because I compared it to a different palette and they both looked exactly the same as far as impact goes. So this is number 3 because the other 2 just won my heart. I love this palette. Don't get me wrong. I love it and I'm going to continue to use it. And that's why I love it, because it doesn't give me a specific season or month vibe. I can do this all year round and it's okay. Like I don't feel like I'm doing hot pink or like pinks in like July when I want to do oranges or blues kind of thing. All right, top 2, you guys, you ready? Top 2. A lot of these palettes, by the way, if you follow me on Instagram, you probably can guess which ones I've been using and which one I'll be ranking, because I share with you guys my makeup of the day and I share the palettes that I am using. So number 2 goes to the Retro palette. I love this palette more than the Love palette and the Be Mine, just because I was feeling this. I was feeling it this past month. I wanted those purples and those pinks, but I wanted it to be like sophisticated and adult like. You know what I mean? Like I wanted that. And this palette, I am shocked at how much I like it, because I have spoken about it in the past. I'm not a mauve person, whatever you want to call it. But this palette just kills it every time for me. My goodness. So it had to be number 2. I've sung its praises many, many times, you guys. This is a very, very good palette. I would say like this is a good staple to have if you want a higher end everyday palette that makes you feel like a woman kind of thing, you know. I love it. I love it. And finally, the last palette and the final number 1 of this past 2 months has to go to the Enduring Love palette. I bought this last year and was hoping to use it in the beginning of this year. And you guys, I fell in love with this palette hard. Like, I mean hard. I just love it. I got the deeper version of it. I felt the lighter one was too light for me. And this is just so nice. I love this. Love this. If this is like the retro, if the retro was too bland for you and you wanted a little bit of color but not too much, like I would recommend this one, because it still gives me that cooler tone vibes without all the pinks, but you're getting the color to it. It's just beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. This color, which is like a green gray, I love it. My goodness. And then I got this brighter purple for those days that I want like a brighter shade. This is a really, really good palette. Very, very good palette. It took me a year to buy this one because I waited. And let me tell you, I'm mad that I did that because I love it. I love it. I actually love this one more than this one. The color story just catches me a little bit more than this one does. And that's why I ranked this one number 1. It just... Every day that I did my makeup, I just wanted to reach for this one, but I knew I had to give other ones a chance. But if I could reach for something in here, I was reaching for it. And it looks like I barely did a dent. And I've used this for almost a month and a half, like a month and a day or so. And you guys, it looks like I barely did anything to it. So this is my number 1 palette of the last 2 months. I just adored it. It was perfect for the season. It wasn't too pink. It wasn't too blue, but it was cool tone and exactly what I wanted for the last 2 months. And I'm so happy that I have that one. That one, if I were to pick between Be Mine and Enduring Love, because you're on the fence of which one to get, I'd say Enduring Love. Enduring Love really, really caught my attention, like big time. Alrighty, guys, that is my ranking for the last 2 months. Let me know if you would change this ranking. Which one would be your number 1 out of the 8 that I used this past 2 months? I will continue to do this every 2 months. I already have my pre-selected palettes that I'm thinking of using for at least the month of March, which I'm excited about. But I wanted to share with you guys the last 2 months, even though I did lose January and I wish I could have had at least 2 more palettes in here, but I made up for the time that I missed out. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll link all these eyeshadow palettes and any videos that I have on them down in the description box if you want to see any more thorough uses of them or reviews or swatches, whatever the case may be. Everything will be down in the description box. More videos for you on the screen. Until then, adios.